meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Iverson.
Here.
Schatzinger.
Here.
Bremer.
Here.
Gallops.
Here.
Denkert.
Here.
Gotsky. Sorensen.
Here.
Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty.
Gracious and loving God, we ask your peace to rest upon everyone who is here. Open our hearts and minds to start with the first question of what is the greater good for all, to always be cognizant of everyone around us, and let your wisdom guide all decisions made this evening. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda. I'll second.
Motion by David, seconded by Steve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving tonight's agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Now it is time for public comment. This is the opportunity for citizens to come before the council with comments and concerns on any current city issue, knowing no action may be taken tonight. I ask that you keep it civil and respectful and within 5 minutes. However, discussion of personnel or individual members of the common council shall not be permitted. I expect you to be respectful, and in return, I expect the council to treat the citizens with the same respect. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the record. First, we have John Heatley.
I'll pass.
Okay. Then we have Corey Polish.
I'm Corey Polish, Polish Construction. And I just have,
And your address for the record.
Pardon?
And your address for the record. Your address?
N7892 Douglas, Ripon.
Thank you.
My questions, comments, or concerns are, understand that we have a new permitting company coming to town, and what considerations were taken to hire them and how that, what that's going to look like in the future. Knowing our current building inspector is very easy to work with. Not knowing the new company at all, how they're going to work, but knowing that the fee schedules seem like they're going to be tripling. And just questions on how that was assessed, or if it was assessed in the consideration of having the new company come to town. So those are my questions.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. Next we have, I can't read the last name. Is it Mike Albright?
Mike Albright, Polish Construction, 417 Scott Street. I believe I share the same concerns that Corey just mentioned. In addition to that, I guess I'd like to understand more of the structure of the new company, their availability. The current inspector I've talked to at all hours of the day, and she's been great to work with, made things super easy. I did do a cost comparison with what was on the website from the last meeting with the permit fee schedule, and it is in fact just short of triple what the current permit fees would be.
Thank you. Thank you. And last, I believe it's Scott Zemecka. Zemlicka.
My name is Scott Zemlicka. My address is N7847 County Road E. Here to speak on the common council plans for the wheel tax as well as Ripon taxi for the deficit we're facing. For the wheel tax in the Ripon Press dated October 17th, it says that the funds for the wheel tax will be exclusively used to fix the roads in Ripon. Same newspaper, different article, says the city has budgeted $60,000 for taxi operations this next budget year, but it seems to be an uphill struggle. One suggestion is to implement a wheel tax and take the money from the budget that would have prevented using a wheel tax to help pay for the deficit. So for the wheel tax, I don't understand how we can use it for the roads and for the taxi service. Also, same newspaper, same article, it states we have 2 handicapped cabs. That is false. We have 4. We used to have 2, 1406 and 1407. Now we have 1408 and 1409 as well. We could have saved money not purchasing 2 new handicapped cabs and bought regular cabs. Also, if the taxi service is eliminated and it's pushed off to Lyft or Uber, this is from right about Patina V to A&W. These prices for a standard was $8.31. For a wait and save, 5 minutes to 30 minutes was $7.75. For an extra large vehicle, you can see 6 people, talking $14 from Patina V to A&W. And for a pet-friendly vehicle, it's $12. Now, from the same location to Hy-Vee, for an 8-minute standard is $16.89. You want to wait and save? You'll pay $15. If you have 6 people or less, but you need the XL vehicle, it's $30. And if you have your pet, you're going to pay $20. And I don't think it would be feasible for the citizens of Ripon that do utilize the taxi service that can't afford to pay that, they wouldn't be able to go and do what they need to do. The taxi, we charge $3.50 a mile within the city of Ripon. If you're elderly or handicapped, $4.75 for a regular cab fare. So, I'd really like you guys to think about that and don't eliminate the taxi service. We have too many people, our elderly, our handicapped, and our children that utilize the service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to accepting informal reports from standing committees and staff. Would there be a motion to approve the reports as published?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ellen, seconded by John. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the informal reports from standing committee and staff, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Next is the consent calendar. This has common council minutes from November 12th and 25th. Is there a motion to approve as published?
I'd like to make a note that the meeting minutes for November 12th, looks like for sections 8.2 and 8.3, are slightly misaligned. It looks like everyone voted no on those when the columns should line up to yes.
Yeah, can I add that once in the paper, it was just sent over, I mean, can you make sure that that doesn't get printed in the paper too, that way?
I think he's right.
Just formatting.
It does appear that that is the case.
And it's a concern because you just take, it's like an image. My understanding when the paper gets it, it's an image. So if it looks that way here, likely it gets sent to the paper and they can't change it.
This is the formatting thing. That's how it's downloaded. We'll make note of it.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes with that change? Or verification, whichever.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the verification votes.
I second it.
Any further discussion? Thank you for catching that, Mark. There's no more discussion. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar, say aye.
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 Opposed? That is approved. All right, now we're coming on to our public hearing for the motor vehicle registration fee, otherwise known as a wheel tax, and the ordinance that goes along with it. Time is now 7:12. I will open the public hearing, and we'll start with a presentation from Adam here.
Make sure it pulls up.
So I'm just going to put it on the one screen.
All right, thanks, everybody. So the Common Council has discussed this issue a couple times in meetings and requested a public hearing be held on the ordinance tonight. So vehicle registration fee or wheel tax ordinance is established via city ordinance and allowed under state statute section 341.35. The city's this wheel tax as proposed is not required as part of any city budget. The concept here is that a vehicle registration fee would be applied and segregated into an account specifically for projects for repair, reconstruction, and resurfacing of roads. While the funds generated will certainly help with some of the city's infrastructure challenges, it will not be a solve-all or a single solution or funding opportunity to solve all the city's infrastructure issues and obligations. The DMV manages the program and takes about a 3 cent per vehicle collection fee, and it takes them 90 days to implement. So if, for example, there would be a wheel tax approved tonight, the soonest the city would start collecting would be approximately April of 2025. And so any time it's passed, it's 90 days after the first of the year. So vehicles registered that day forward after those 90 days in the city of Ripon would have the tax applied. The vehicle count as of July of this year was around 7,750 eligible vehicles. At a $25 wheel tax, it would generate approximately $193,000 a year. That includes the reduction of the 3 cents. And while that's all estimated based on the number, but we won't necessarily know a final number until we begin collecting, right? There may be some difference between the estimated vehicle count as well as, from July to whenever one gets implemented. As well as if you started in April, you don't know what month necessarily, so you can't necessarily guarantee that you're going to collect that all in any given year. But that's a general idea. The city has an existing capital improvement plan. We've talked about this before. There are a series of projects that I will show that equate to about $13 million of spending between this year and 2030. And those are all funded through resources not associated with a wheel tax. So we're talking about our general fund, general obligation debt, utility revenue, TIDS, grants, and that also includes the large reconstruction project of State Highway 23 in 2030. The projects that are on the current CIP, including this year's project of St. Wenceslas. You got Hamburg Street, which is due to be done next year, with Henny Street as well. Houston Street after that, and then we get into East Seward, Liberty Street, Griswold, Pacific, the State Highway project, and East Sullivan. So sorry, that's kind of hard to see, but these are all larger projects, all ranging in size of mostly $1 million to $2 million. There's significant projects, full road reconstructions, utilities, everything. So this is what the city is committing to doing over the next 7 years. And it is arguably the most aggressive infrastructure capital program we've put in place for many, many years. Every year the city is required, or every year the city is required to do PASER ratings. You can see here that each road is mapped and given a rating of 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, 7, 8, and 9 to 10. 36.8% of our roads are in the 5 to 6, 17.24 are 3 to 4. This is the category of roads that we would be targeting projects with the wheel tax. Once you get into a 1 to 2 or 3, you start to see the need to reconstruct the road fully. At a current pace, if we were to do what we want to do through 2030, and we look back at what we've done the past couple of years, we are at 0.41 miles of road per year. We are tasked with maintaining 42 miles of road, so we're at about a 102-year replacement schedule based on the current capital improvement plan. As you can see then in a little chart here, we are just to fix the roads that are a 5 or 6 or under. It's about 23.89 of our 42 miles are at that 5 or 6 or under. If we were at that pace, we're still on a 58-year replacement cycle. So the current pace, just where we're headed with large projects we have on the docket here, is still about 102 years. The city, through the budgeting process and through discussions with the council, we've looked at alternative solutions to funding. There's always other ways we can put money toward infrastructure costs, and we have done that through some of our budgeting processes. But to get to the point to equate to the number of dollars in the wheel tax, you would have to eliminate things out of the budget and cut services, and a lot of those things that were discussed were less desirable, including funding toward things like the taxi. You could, or you know, library, personnel, part-time help, Parks and Rec, DPW, cemetery maintenance. A lot of those things were looked at, and the council made the decision not to make those cuts. So this is not, like I said, necessary to fund the 2025 budget. The city could increase our tax levy, but the result in increasing it that amount would equate to generally a larger dollar amount of about $92 per household. And with a thing called expenditure restraint and $110,000 of expenditure restraint funding coming from the state, we would likely become ineligible for that, so we wouldn't be necessarily gaining much by taking the strategy of increasing taxes. The city had in the past done special assessments for road projects. We have discontinued that practice. Special assessments are used throughout communities in the state to have property owners directly abutting a project be charged a portion of the project's costs. Those can be very costly. The city previously could have done a transportation utility, but that's no longer allowable due to a Supreme Court decision this past year. The city could do a referendum to exceed our tax levy to put more money in to a fund to do this. There are some concerns that we are going to need that type of referendum for other things in the future. So that has not been pursued. We certainly could look at grants and state aid increases, which we have gotten grants and we have increased our state aid. And by law, the city cannot just create a sales tax, a gas tax, or an income tax. There are limits that we have on us that are placed on us by the state. And there are only certain vehicles that we are allowed to implement a registration fee on. So it's not all encompassing, it's only on what the state allows. And that's dictated in the ordinance. This is an example capital improvement plan. There are a list of more residential roads. The idea would be to create a capital improvement plan, have Common Council authorize projects annually. We would start projects in 2026 if it were to be implemented, and match the budget or the project to the budget we have. And you can see that these are more of your traditional residential roads that are ranked at a 5 or under. So Tabert, Cass, Oak, May, Party, Joy, Harvey, John Street, Carroll Avenue. All of these, by no means are we promising. These are just examples of roads with engineered estimates of what the anticipated cost is. So the average about, for each of the projects here is about $167,000. So we would anticipate the ability to do projects like this based on the estimates and based on the generated revenue from a wheel tax. There's a draft ordinance provided. Really, the ordinance is established under the state statute, and it's dedicated revenue for transportation-related purposes, road repair, reconstruction, resurfacing. There is a clause in the ordinance that says this is in lieu of doing special assessments. So that I just wanted to call attention to. What this would say is we would not pursue special assessments on road projects if this were implemented. That is certainly a decision of the council as well, but a lot of communities kind of get into a point where they do a wheel tax and they have special assessments, and ultimately this was put in there as it was found in a draft and a way to say we're not going to introduce the practice of special assessments again. The ordinance applies to automobiles and motor vehicles weighing 8,000 pounds or less and that are registered in Wisconsin and kept in the city of Ripon. It is a $25 registration fee, and the fee is collected by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation through the initial registration and renewal of vehicles. There are exemptions to it, including vehicles that are already exempt from state registration fees. So there are certain vehicles that, municipal vehicles, things like that wouldn't be required to pay. And then obviously anything above 8,000 pounds or more. And then really from a fund and oversight perspective, the ordinance takes revenue from the registration fee and places it in a segregated account strictly for transportation-related purposes. And then the council oversees the allocation as part of the city's budget process annually. And then there's auditing and annual reporting back for how the projects, what projects were funded. So that's the general overview of the ordinance and background of this discussion, previous discussion. So,
All right. This time we'll open it up to comments from the public. For this section, I will call you like we do for public comment, and I will ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes. First we have, again, we're going to ask that you state your name and address for the record. And first we're going to have John Sullivan.
I'm John Sullivan, 411 Houston Street. The City of Ripon taxpayers do not need another fee or tax increase. I think the Common Council and City of Ripon administration need to cut spending since there's been little to no population growth in Ripon for the last 30 years. Got a few examples here as far as the new public works garage that was in the Ripon Commonwealth article that said that the bid came in at $8.6 million instead of $12 million. So it should have been welcome relief for the city of Ripon taxpayers, but instead the city of Ripon, who's historically been known for excessive construction overruns, has decided to add a lot of extras to the construction. But the one thing that they didn't include was the $3.3 million to demolish the existing public works building that was not included in the construction bid mentioned. If you add the demolition to the public works buildings, the estimated cost is going to be well over $12 million. So why did the existing public works buildings need to be demolished? Why couldn't the existing public works buildings be sold to someone even for $1, and the property could then be added to the tax roll to save the taxpayers $3.3 million? The other item I have a question on is the Selfridge Park project that's going to cost $850,000, and then the city replacing the Selfridge Park playground equipment for $216,966. The playground equipment was installed 28 years ago, and not in that time, not one part of the playground equipment has had to be replaced. The reason for the playground equipment lasting so long is that nobody uses the playground equipment in Selfridge Park. Seward Street going into Selfridge Park is badly in need of repair. There's over a 1-foot hump that's over 100 feet long on the south side of the street. The street and utilities under the street have not been replaced for over 30 years. But replacing the playground equipment is a better use of the taxpayers' money instead of fixing the street that's too dangerous to drive or even walk on. Selfridge Park project is partially funded by a $4,000 grant the city of taxpayers had to pay to. Is that it?
2 minutes? Yep.
Okay. All right. Well,
If you'd like
Okay.
to leave the rest of your comments, you can leave a copy of your comments or submit the rest of them.
sure. All right.
Thank you.
No, sorry.
Next, we have David Hahn.
David Hahn, 646 Hall Street. I'm here tonight to speak to the council about the wheel tax. Most of my questions have been answered. I do have an opinion that the scare tactic of a special assessment that would need council approval would never happen, and therefore should not be used as a threat. That being said, the Wisconsin law states revenue must be used for transportation-related purposes. This is very vague and unclear. And even with Adam speaking tonight, brought up the fact that it could be used for other purposes than road construction or replacement. I asked that we form a committee to oversee this. It should consist of at least 2 citizens. I am asking to be established before proceeding with a wheel tax. I am volunteering to serve on this committee. I am also asking the Mayor Grant to approve me to such a committee. In closing, this wheel tax needs a lot more consideration before being approved or denied. Any motion made to approve would be premature. Thank you. David Hahn.
You. Next, we have Annette Klein.
I'm disappointed that I only get 2 minutes and the first people get 5. Annette Klein, 433 Murray Park Drive. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I was sitting in your seats 2 different times. I've been an alderman twice. I worked for the Public Works Department for 22 years. So I've been on both sides of the table. I would hope also that you would table this issue tonight and think about it more. I spoke to someone about how much money, how far of a distance you would get done with this much money. All of you, think of something in your head of how far do you think it would be? And I'll tell you what I was told. I was told 250 feet. 250 feet. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. And what's going to happen next year? Oh, this wasn't enough. So let's raise it to 50. And then next year, after that, oh, we couldn't do enough. Let's go for 100. But I'm not just saying this, I'm going to give you an answer to what you could do. You could get rid of MSA. Find out, I don't know how much money is going to MSA, but I think you all need to ask, how much have you spent on MSA since Travis Drake retired? Because if you got a city engineer and an engineering tech, again, look at all that money that you would save. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on MSA. For what? You could get a city engineer and engineering tech, like I said, to do this work and save you money instead of spending money on MSA. It boggles my mind. I'm sorry that this has even not been done in the past. Thank you.
Next, we have John Heatley.
John Heatley, 523 Watson Street. I'd like to get a copy of the ordinance, in particular to find out what a real tax eligible vehicle really is or what it isn't. And I'm not sure if that was available before the meeting or not, but I can't read that if that's the whole ordinance.
I'll give you one, John.
What?
I'll give it to you.
And I also think that a wheel tax is an interesting way of generating revenue. I also agree that the roads in Ripon are in tough shape, but I do agree with Mr. Hahn that needs to be a little more consideration and more input on that. Thank you.
I'll bring it back. Let me look it up and I'll bring it back.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Scott Zemlicka.
Pass.
And then last, Michael Buck.
Hi, Michael Buck, 645 South Grove Street. Now, on paper, everything about the wheel tax seems like it's all fine and good, but like my mom said, Annette Klein, you don't get a lot done with that amount of money. Bigger budget moves and reassessments are going to need to be made for any sort of real work to be done, real improvements to be done. $190,000 does not accomplish a lot. So I would say not good enough, and you guys should think about it again.
Thank you. And that is all I have on the list for comment on this topic. I will, at this time, 7:34, we'll close the public hearing. I thank you all for your comments. And we will now move into our first agenda item, which is the ordinance to create Chapter 15.45 Motor Vehicle Registration Fee. Who would like to start discussion on this? Mark.
There's a couple things that I think about or have thought about as we've talked about this over the past 3 months or so, at least 2 months. The first one being our capital improvement plan. That, as Adam showed, is about $13 million of full reconstructions, really big projects on some of our highest trafficked roads. Those are areas where everyone in the community is using those roads, businesses, passers through, their state highways, their county highways that come into the city of Ripon. Those are all projects that absolutely need to be done. But when you look at the timeline, we are only doing, how many miles was it? like
0.4.
0.4 miles a year going out to 2030. That is not enough. And those are projects that we're getting state aid for, that we're getting county aid for, that we're financing as a city to do for everyone in our community. But then none of those projects even begin to start, as Adam showed, Tabbert, Wawa, Griswold, or any of the roads down on the south side of town. Those roads have been built, 20, 30, 40 years ago, paid for, and now it's time to pay the maintenance on them. It's time to upkeep what we already have, not just tear down and replace, or in this case, wait another 50 or so years to tear down and replace when they already need maintenance. So my question to everyone is, we need some form of funding to pay for maintenance right now today. And we can say, well, we're gonna start cutting our services. We could take trash down to twice a month or once every other week. How is that gonna work for people who already have overflowing trash cans? We could not pick up as many leaves. We could not sweep the streets. And then what would that look like in 5 years or 6 years or 7 years after a few years of letting the city slowly get a little bit dingier? Unfortunately, I think what's happened is we've kicked the can down the road for about 15 or 20 years. And well, the can is dented and rusted, and now it just cut our foot open. We're bleeding out a little bit, and now we have to bandage the wound and move on. Because there's been many proposals brought to this council about cutting spending or finding other revenue sources. Adam has brought up lots of different proposals to us, and the state has tied our hands on quite a few things. We used to have transportation utility. That would have been an excellent way, but we're unable to do that anymore. State share revenue funding is going down every single year. So unless we can all convince the state legislature to give us $200,000 or $300,000 every year moving forward, where are we going to get the money to maintain what we have right now? We can say, well, special assessments, yeah, maybe, maybe not. Special assessments aren't great. I'm a home people who aren't, who drive on the roads. So how is that fair to people who own a home or don't own a home, but still use the roads equally in our community, especially on the smaller side streets, the smaller ones that don't have a lot of truck traffic or a lot of main use and pass through. How do we serve those members of our community when their roads, as pointed out by the community, over by the mill pond, where there's big ruts and there's big damage? How are we going to maintain those? They need it right now. Are we going to wait another 15 years to try and address it, or are we going to do something tonight? And if the state does, if the legislature does give us grants or match funds for revenue, we can repeal this. There's nothing saying we couldn't enact it and then go ahead and repeal it next year, right away. And I'd be the first one to do it if we could find another way to get that money. But right now, where is it going to come from? We can cut things, but costs go up every year, which means that compounds. So 5% turns into 10%, turns into 15% when you cut costs, and you're cutting your spend and the cost goes up. But I just have not seen any other feasible or reasonable way to generate a little bit more revenue so that we can at least start to do something today. Yeah, we're only going to get 250 or 400 feet done a year, but that's 250 or 400 feet or a block, maybe 2 blocks done that we would have otherwise never had the money to do. And then once the road's gone, it costs even more. So all I have to say, I guess, is there's not a lot of ways that we can raise money, but we need it, and we need it today.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? John?
Yeah, I'd like to speak. He can go.
Oh, Doug first, then Doug. Go ahead, Doug.
He's out of time.
Okay, I'd like to address a few concerns. First of all, Selfridge Park, we're getting that money, in case it hasn't already been mentioned, half that money is from the state, from the Nelson Mill Stewardship Grant that's been widely reported in the newspaper that we got a while back. And the rest of that money is all of going to be funneled through a TID district that has extra increment in there that allows us to do that. We are redoing Selfridge Park, and we are using the same all the playground equipment because you're right, that playground equipment has not busted. It's still, that company is still run, and we're going to add to it, and that's going to help support the Boys and Girls Club and the rest of the community. Yep, that road needs to be redone. There's lots of things that need to be done, which is why we need the registration fee. I don't see there's any other way of getting that revenue. I am not willing to vote for this, only to keep this, not to vote for it and let the city kind of slowly decline. Decline time is over. We need to pump money into the city. I'd like to also then address the our DPW building. That absolutely needs to be replaced. And selling the land seems to be foolish to me for someone to fix old buildings that are going to fall apart. Well, we have the land, that's the most expensive thing. Yes, that's going to cost some money, but it'll be bonded over multiple years. And I fully expect that building to be standing in far better condition in 60 years, long after everyone here is dead, than the old building was. With better construction techniques, we will probably outgrow it. So, is it kind of scary to spend all this money? Yes, it is. I don't necessarily like it, but we need to go forward, and we need to go forward without feeling that we're scared about this. We are making sensible financial choices for this city, for the equipment, for the employees, and for the citizens to have a good quality of life. I'm willing to bet that our housing values are better than the surrounding communities because we're putting money into the streets, the roads, Parks and Rec Department, a library, renovation project, taxing the property tax out of people. Because we, as Adam said, we can only go so high before we lose the expenditure restraint money, which I feel is too low. So remember, there's $4 billion in unallocated. And so, since they're ignoring us, we have to take matters in our own hands. So no, I'm not really interested in forming a committee that's going to do nothing. We need to go forward now. So anyway,
Thank you. And just to follow up on that last sentence about the committee, we do have a committee that will oversee this. It is the Public Works Committee, as well as the Common Council will oversee everything that the Public Works Committee does. So there's already a committee in place.
Thank you. I've been thinking of this a lot over the last couple of weeks. I listened to a lot of people about this wheel tax, and I know we just passed the city budget just a couple weeks ago, but I do believe we threw $60,000 at a taxi deficit. We collected this year to date roughly $44,000 in building permits this year. That's $104,000 combined right there. We could have cut maybe 25 from the fire department, maybe 25 from the library. That's another $50 there. And I don't even remember how much we had a budget for EMS, which 5 years ago was self-sufficient. We didn't have to kick in any. We hired a consulting firm for $36,000, I believe it was, to tell us if we should combine EMS and the fire department. $12,000 to hire a new finance director. And granted, I know the money came from the resignation of the old finance director's salary, but we could have used that for other things. We raised the cost of water this year, raised the recycling fee. Inflation is high right now. Gas prices are high. I just don't think this is the time right now to to tell the citizens that we need more money. I think we need to ask more questions, where the money's going to go. I like the idea of citizens on a committee that would help instruct where the money goes. And I just feel at this time I can't vote in favor of it. I think we need to postpone it and go. Thank you.
Johnson.
So let me echo off of Doug, and Doug, you can counter me. I know you want to. So let me just say, philosophically, I agree. Tax go to what it is funding makes complete sense to me, and I wish we did more of that. In practice, to Doug's point, with the legislature ignoring us and shared revenue not being used, in a year or in a couple of years when the state is sitting on a budget surplus in the billions of dollars, it doesn't make sense to put that burden on the city when the legislature is ignoring us. So I know the ask there is to deal with roads until I just don't think that it is fair to put that burden on the taxpayer when there is a surplus in the billions of dollars sitting there that is not being segregated correctly back to the cities.
Mark? I have two comments kind of to both of you. First of all, I don't agree that EMS and fire can really bear any cuts right now. I think
Library and fire.
Library and revise my statement too. I do not believe that the fire district can bear any cuts right now. Being on the fire board, I know how challenged they are down there, and any cut I think would have catastrophic repercussions to our community in terms of fire response and having staffing and having equipment available. Those are core services that our city is obligated to our citizens. I mean, that just as a municipality, we must have them available. And to start cutting into things like that, we are cutting away the frame of our house. I mean, that would be irresponsible to a degree that I couldn't even comprehend right now, because if you start talking about cutting services that directly save lives to free up budget for roads, and it wouldn't just free up budget for roads, I understand that, it could be used in other areas, but that is, I mean, talk about cutting off your nose to spite your face. That would be something, you know, the first car accident that has a full roll response, and they don't have an EMS, you know, if there's an accident and they need to roll another EMS, that would be, I think, something that would weigh entirely too heavy on me to support cutting into fire, EMS, those things. I agree that we are raising rates quite drastically. That is true. But that is another thing, in my opinion, that we haven't raised rates in 15 years. 2007 was the last. We've had 15 years where costs have gone up every single year for water to continue operating. And we've done nothing to address the inflow versus the outflow of that department. And that's an enterprise fund that is supposed to be ordinance and by statute within the city. That fund should be getting enough money in to fully fund itself. That shouldn't be supported by external general fund money, nor, in my opinion, should what an enterprise fund is supposed to be. Right now, it's a little bit underwater. It is expending more than what it takes in. That's another case, I think, that supports what my opinion is that we've kicked the can down the road. We've said, well, we don't want to raise rates. We don't want to raise rates. Well, when are we going to do it? When, are we just going to, you know, turn off the water and say, well, we couldn't raise rates this year, so we got to turn off our water? Yeah, that's a little bit of an extreme, but, you know, if we wait on stuff like that, that's another thing where We can't touch that money. We can't use that for roads. That's a service that needs to be whole. That's a service that needs to fund itself and be able to fund itself well to continue having clean and clear water for our citizens. Maybe wishing or hoping for the state legislature to do something. Well, I'm not a state legislator, but I am here for all the citizens, and I hope that I'm doing that, but I certainly wouldn't pin my hopes and dreams on our legislature right now. Looking around me right now, I think there's a much more level-headed and reasonable group of people, including sitting out there in, especially around this time of year. Sometimes those letters are answered and sometimes they're not. But again, I don't think that waiting is an appropriate response. We've waited 15, 20 years to address these issues, and finally we have a way to do it, or we have maybe the gumption to do it. So I'll continue to call on my council members, fellow council members, to support this, because I don't think we have a better way forward right now. Thank you.
Jolene.
Can I ask a question related to, Adam, your presentation about with the money that we could receive if we were to implement the proposed wheel tax at $25, you had a schedule of potential roads. Now, those were not promised. And I don't know if it's helpful to look at that again, but I feel like that addresses the concern. I want to revisit that. Someone brought up the concern about only having the funds that this would raise for 250 feet. And this looks like a number of different streets. And is
1478, 660, 686, 1373, 450, 1040, 650, 1600.
And is the difference, do you think, sort of the difference in understanding of information, if someone heard 250, I don't know who they spoke to, but it was a fully reconstructed road taking out, whereas the proposal for this is resurfacing. Can you reiterate what the plans would be for these projects?
This is a linear foot cost of mill overlay, curb repair, manhole adjustments. It's not a full reconstruct. It's looking at roads that have a surface that are bad, with utilities that can skip a cycle of replacement. Repair and to reconstruct a road is different than to, say, repair or resurface a road. So this would be projects that aren't necessarily at the point of needing that full reconstruction, but to the point that, yeah, you could triple the cost of linear foot by adding utilities, buried utilities. And that is why the projects we have listed, right, previous to this one, these projects are all those, right? Including Houston, East Seward Spring and Water. So the area around Selfridge Park is planned to be done as part of the Selfridge Park project, along with Houston. So those projects are all in there, and they're more or less higher cost because of that. These are lower cost projects that are not on any plan and will not be done. They will not be done.
And again, just so, you know, for the record, so I'm making sure I understand it, this is way more than 250 feet, and that is because it is not a full reconstruction. We're talking about, again, the resurfacing, milling, et cetera, correct?
That is the estimate that's here, yes. That is what we've estimated out. Alan and I and our engineers put this together based on current costs with some inflationary impact over time. Just because we know it's going to cost more over time. This is not going to become a cheaper problem.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and this is where I go to my colleagues who I too want to wait on the state. It's ridiculous that there is not more money that's being funneled back to help, you know, cities, towns throughout the state. But the longer we wait, there's not a single person in construction that has told me that they expect costs to go down in the future. Quite the opposite. And so I'm afraid that if we don't start chipping away at our roads, chipping away, helping them be better, they will be more chips, more wear and tear, and that concerns me. So I'm hearing from people in the audience that they're concerned some maybe didn't get to read the full ordinance. Some people feel like we should take more time. I don't want to push this through. I'm not needing to take a vote tonight, but I also don't see a better way to help improve our city. So in general, for me, it makes a lot of sense to share the cost, to better our roads for our entire city. This seems like a really smart plan, and I go back to when I first joined the council. I went to a training information through the League of Municipalities, and I remember they had an hour-long session, and what they said is, you will never be the popular, alderperson to take money, to raise money and put it towards roads, but long-term, this will be the most impactful way that you can help your city long-term. People, it's not sexy, but otherwise, the costs are going to skyrocket later for roads. I mean, the data that they showed me, I don't have it in front of me, but if you do this resurface, if you do the general maintenance, your roads are going to last longer. And I guess, I don't know, can we agree that is a practice that we agree that if you keep up maintenance, the roads tend to last longer, and that there's savings long-term versus not doing maintenance and having to replace it at a more expensive cost?
Well, yeah, as you do maintenance, but any road is only going to have all roads are going to have a finite life just due to traffic and just due to elements are going to degrade them over time.
Right. So for me, this seems like a good idea, but I'm not in need of a vote because I understand that they'll take some time before this is voted to actually be implemented at the state anyways, correct? Whether we do this now or next month.
90 days from whenever it's passed.
Yeah.
Steve?
I agree with a lot. I agree a lot with what John said. As far as what Mark said about the water rates, we've already raised our rates to be progressive on that as far as taking care of the water. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's irrelevant. We're working on that already. The citizens of this city are already paying higher prices now so that we can have the good water you were talking about. I don't have a problem with that. As far as the wheel tax goes, I think this should be not done right now. I think there's got to be better ways to do this. I don't know what they did in the old days, but all our streets started with gravel. Well, gee, now we're all paved. There has to be a way to come up with some more money, and I agree with this, trying to get more money from the state, like Jonathan was saying, because of the budget, they over budgeted. The city should be able to get some of that money. And the citizens that have already paid in to, you can sit there and go like this.
No, I think it'll be years, it could be.
Well, then maybe we ought to go up and negotiate with them.
Yeah.
For crying out loud. I'm just concerned that the citizens are paying enough money right now, this year, that this couldn't wait until we can see what else we could do. So.
I'd like to speak.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Actually,
okay, I want to address...
Doug, John first, then you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
My rebuttal to Mark is, I'm not saying that we didn't need to raise the water rates, because we did. But the people are paying for that now, or will be paying for it. And as far as the budget for the fire and, say, the library, I don't need to hear doom and gloom and you can't handle a budget cut, because that is fictitious. Citizens of Ripon always live on a budget. We get so much money, we only have so much to pay, so everybody lives on a budget. So if the fire department budget got cut by $25,000, they would have to somehow live within that budget. And I'm sure they would make it. The citizens of Ripon would still get their fire protection. Thank you.
Okay, Doug?
Okay, Ellen, if you're sitting there, you're sitting next to John, will you please clue him in on the fire district's budget? We barely got it budgeted this year. We're using some fund balance that we have no idea where that money came from. We are having to buy turnout gear. We are hoping to get a FEMA grant to cover the Phase 2 radio system that we need to have inter-county operability. So, John, cutting $25,000 from the fire budget or something, that is just, I don't know where you're even thinking. Why don't you get your saw out and start cutting on your 2x4s and your load-bearing wall?
Point of order.
And can we keep this germane to wheel tax conversation?
Okay, John, I do apologize for that outburst. Could we just go forward with the wheel tax, because the state, you can negotiate with them all you want. It's not going to happen right now. It may be a decade or more. Okay, we need to have these roads repaved, mill and overlaid now. I'm tired of hearing on social media, oh my goodness, fix the darn roads, okay? I will be very happy to go in and tell people that, you know, you all voted that down. You all made a big fuss about it, so no, the roads are going to be potholed. That's on you. I don't want it to be on you. I want it to be, let's go fix these roads. It's a bit of money, and it's not a lot of money. You know how much I spend on coffee a month? Way more than $25. What's your favorite beverage? I bet you spend way more than $25 a month on that. We are talking a yearly $25 fee so that we can have decent roads. Come on, everybody out there. We need this. We need to go forward with this. There's nothing else in the budget really to cut. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anyone else? David?
Question on this, on purpose, and it's 15.45.020 purpose. One thing it kind of goes into, it's to assist with transportation-related purposes. So it kind of leaves, we're talking about using this strictly for roads. Can't this be used for a lot of other things, transportation-related, by putting this in here?
I think that's kind of
like this is only going to be to resurface roads in residential neighborhoods that really need it in the worst way that we're not going to get to for another 20.
Language promoted by municipalities in the Department of Transportation, right? It's just general transportation-related expenses regarding, you know, like fund-to-fund repair, reconstruction, and it goes on to state, you know, more of the process about the segregated account and the oversight of it. So the council still would have control over that to implement, you know, this however they saw fit. Do projects, right, in a segregated fund. So council would remain, you know, have to sustain that or to continue that on. But it's not like you can use this for taxi. It's not like you can use it to fund a library. It's not like you can use it. It has to be related to road, you know, reconstruction. So it is very narrow.
Okay.
Yeah, it's specific over general. I mean, what you're quoting is the enabling legislation. And then it goes further under 1545.070 to tell you, here's the narrow focus.
I just had a few people worried about the wiggle room there that we were going to use it. But this money's going strictly for, more likely than not, residential roads to just repave the bad ones. That's what this is for, right? That's what we're going to do with this.
That's under 1545.070, segregated fund for revenues and administration. A is exactly what you said.
All right.
Mark?
Yeah, I would like to point out that under that section, all revenue, I mean, if we adopt this ordinance, we will be beholden to this. All revenue collected from the vehicle registration fee shall be placed in a segregated fund strictly for the purposes of repair, reconstruction, resurfacing, and maintenance of roads, as well as associated project costs. Which means if we adopt this, We adopt the legislation, and then the fund is, by law, only able to be used for those projects. And of course, then we get to choose as a body what projects we want with citizen, input and our PASER scores, so that we know which ones are most, cost effective, where it's needed, et cetera.
Jolene?
Two things is, while I appreciate thinking about different departments and what we can cut, I mean, this is exactly why we went line by line through the budget. And I mean, creative, but this is what we just talked about. And, we just passed the budget and we relied on the views of our department heads to run strong departments. And, this is why we really tried to go through everything. So I just think we just went through that. And I don't think my colleague is saying this just to sort of sound tough, to sound like he's against raising. I hope not, because I mean, I'm not for raising costs either. I just want to the point of, having city streets that are taken care of, not on a 100-year schedule. I think it's my duty to my some people that spoke today to say, do better, it's not enough. The answer for me then, though, can't be, well, to do nothing. I feel like that's an argument to try to do something to have some improvement. If it's not good enough, because that's not answering. So I hope that the people that are saying it's not enough of the roads, well, we can say, well, here we tried to do something and we're trying to improve little by little. And that's why I think that it'll be 25, then next year we might go up. I get the impression that none of my colleagues, including myself, would intend to raise this more than 25 next year or that. Can we just go through, though, to kind of put people at ease, that once, let's say this would be reviewed in the budget, right, then in future years, I mean, it's an ordinance, right, I mean, how, if it were to be the discussion of increase, it would go in front of all of us, again, it would have to be gone through and then come to us. It's kind of a difficult procedure. I mean,
it's an ordinance amendment, so it's the same process. It's the same process.
I mean, I suppose, could someone add, if we felt like, and not that I want to add something that's different than other ordinances, that it cannot be raised without a public hearing first? Is that helpful? I mean, so that someone who maybe is interested in being on a committee, and we said, well, there already is a committee, either they join the Public Works Committee, or they can know that we'll have another public hearing next time it's looked at, and that they can be assured that they will be able to, although you can come anytime and speak before a council meeting too, that, yeah. I'm just trying to put things in place to make sure people are not unduly concerned when they don't need to be, in my mind, because there are things in place.
Okay, Steve?
When we approved the budget this year, there was money that was already aligned for our roads and for the PWD, things like that. Alan brought forth all the information that we needed that was pertaining to him. So this is above and beyond what we're considering. I mean, they already have money in the budget, and not that we can't use more, but the point is we already have money in the budget for potholes and this and that. I mean, everybody's sitting there going, well, now we're gonna have potholes all over our streets. Wrong. Our PWD department takes care of that kind of stuff. They have the money for that from our budget. So this wheel tax is above and beyond what's in our budget. That little bit of money that, well, to us it's a lot of money, but that little bit of money that you would hire out somebody to do this for, to grind the streets and stuff, that's not gonna go very far. You have to look at the bang for your buck, what you're getting in the long run. And you can sit there, well, we can go our roads in our city, and maybe we won't get as much done, but like John and everybody else was saying, well, there's got to be places to save some money. And that's the only thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at the concerns of a lot of stuff saying, you're going to charge me for my car? Heck, I'm 83 years old. I shouldn't probably be driving, but you're going to charge me for my car on top of this? I don't know. I just think this is a
John?
Just to get back to Doug's comment, it was just the budget items I was saying was just to get a point across that we can do better. Somehow we can do better. That's it.
I do think every time we review the budget, we do try to do better, right? I agree with that we can and should be striving to do better, but if that's the case, then clearly with our tax levy and our operations budget and our departments, we're doing everything we can, and we're still falling short year over year. I've lived in Ripon for coming on, and there's never been a consolidated push. There's never been a program to list the streets and say, okay, we're going to tackle this one, then we're going to tackle this one, then we're going to tackle this one. Capital improvement fund so that we can then go and reconstruct this one. And then that next year, we can do this one and this one. We are not keeping up on the maintenance of what we have right now. And that's, yeah, we can wait. I mean, I'm not saying it has to happen tonight, but it certainly can't happen 2 years from now, 3 years from now, because we've been saying that as a city for 20-something years. And we aren't keeping up with it. Yes, we can do better in the budget. I agree. We can always try to find places. We can try to find efficiencies. We can do things better. We can ask our department heads. And we will. But right now, our roads are falling behind. Our roads are crumbling beneath us, and we don't have a plan. We have a plan for big reconstruction. We have a plan to build new things, but that plan doesn't have any maintenance built into it either. So then 15 years from now, when we have Sullivan Street was just reconstructed by the high school, and where's the maintenance for that in 15 years? Is that going to be taken out of the budget 15 years from now? Maybe. But right now, what can we do? Right now, what tools do we have at our disposal? That's the question.
Ellen?
I move that we create ordinance, Chapter 15.45, motor vehicle registration fee of the municipal code.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I'll second.
Thank you, Doug. Motion by Ellen, second by Doug. Further discussion? One last time, is there any further discussion?
So, I mean,
Go ahead.
if someone wanted to be a part of this, they could, again, ask to be on the DPW,
That's correct.
or is there an opening?
Not currently. But,
They could attend meetings?
yes.
Thanks.
Can I speak, Mayor?
Jonathan first, then Doug.
Just to reiterate what I said, I feel like if the state had kept up with their end of what should be their bargain, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So if I track that through logically, it doesn't seem like we should be making a concession. And I feel like, politics in general, down to the local level, like the small concessions that we make, like the county will make a small concession, the state will make a small concession. It's just a slippery slope of where you draw that line. And I understand all the commentary about the roads crumbling. I drive on the same roads. I feel like my shocks are falling out of my car every day. But I feel like at some point, like someone just needs to draw the line on where the concessions happen. And I just feel like it comes down to a local level. Everyone says local politics are, the most important part, right? It's the foundation of the country. Like, I just don't feel like this is a concession that we should make.
Doug, then Julian.
I would just like to say, don't trust the state legislature to fix this anytime soon. They've had more than a decade to increase their shared revenue, and they've only let it go stagnant or decline. We need to fix this problem ourselves. Everybody here needs to want to have this fixed on our own, and if someday we get more shared revenue from the state, great. We'll figure it out then. Not looking for that. Because if I could see that happening like that 1 cent sales tax to local communities, I wouldn't be asking for this. I wouldn't be saying that we needed it. But here we are, sitting here, waiting and waiting and waiting for increase in shared revenue so we don't have to take this step. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen now. It's not going to happen in January. I don't know if it will ever happen. We need to go work on this now. And I'm sorry, the water rates went up. I get all that, but we sat stagnant for over 20 years. I've lived in this community since '06. Please contact me for anything. I'm not really getting your emails, not getting your phone calls, but I feel that we have to go forward. Unless you can make a compelling reason otherwise not to, I'm going to vote tonight. Thank you.
Jillian.
No, I was just going to say to my colleague, Mr. Gasky, I hope that other cities are having that same conversation, and I hope that they choose to not look at their roads and make that statement, so that makes a statement to state, and I hope that all of us personally can contact our legislatures. I think that when it's a time like this, my understanding from our local employers that the biggest concern is finding good employees, and that means people wanting to move here. And so if we can take advantage of this opportunity when perhaps other cities are saying, well, let's wait, and we can do small improvements to make sure our city remains attractive, that our roads look good when people drive in. It is a first impression statement when people are looking to move. I care about our employers, and I want to have a city where people want to move here, and I hope that allows us to be a more attractive place. We are in a race to be attractive, to wanting people to move here. So that's a good argument. I hope that other cities take care of that, and for me, this is all the more reason to say, let's make sure Ripon is taking care of our community.
I argued the wrong way then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Any further discussion? One more time, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote on the motion to adopt ordinance, or the ordinance to create Chapter 15.45 motor vehicle registration fee in the city of Ripon.
Iverson.
Yes.
Schatzinger.
Yes.
Reamer.
No.
Gallops.
Yes.
Denkert.
Yes.
Gotsky.
No.
Sorensen.
Yes.
Split.
No.
Motion carries 5-3.
All right, moving on. Our next topic is an owner-architect agreement for architectural services between PRA and the City of Ripon's Public Library, City of Ripon and the Public Library. Tonight we have Jason with PRA and our new library director, who will start the conversation with her, Alex Cogshell. Alex, if you'd like to step forward and introduce yourself to the council and the city.
You can just basically describe the whole project.
Because I'm up to speed day 5. Alex Cogshell. I couldn't tell if you got it right, but I think you got it close. New library director at the Ripon Public Library. I'm very excited to be here. Very excited to work with all of you, get to know the community. If you stop by the library anytime in the next few weeks, you will not find me because I'm meeting with everyone from Chamber of Commerce, downtown management, everybody. My goal is to come in and get up to speed, especially with the renovation projects. And as it currently stands,
plans. Adam knows more about what's happening with that than I do. But the goal with all of that is to, I don't know this community yet. And so relying on community input, relying on my staff inputs, to make sure that we are serving the needs that are here within the community, and that we're getting also the building itself up to the standard that it should be. There are a lot of things, and that's kind of what I figured out right away. A lot of things that unfortunately weren't kept up, and unraveling what that looks like and how we can better maintain the building as a city building. And anything else I need to cover?
No, you're fine. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. So Alex obviously jumped on board more recently, but the city as well as the library board have been working through this project. Jason Pusto from PRA is on the line, and through sort of a competitive process where we looked at actually doing a facility like master plan, PRA was selected as the firm that plan kind of moved now into a building project. So PRA has been selected by the library board and by the city to move forward in designing out the project. So you can see here, this is an owner-architect agreement. It's based on an estimated project cost and about 9%. So 9% is what is estimated to be the fee. So the fee will increase as the project budget goes up, obviously with a $2 million or so grant and the dollars coming from donated funds. We're going to be doing more than a $1.7 million project, but this is kind of the starting point. We wanted to get this in front of you, and Jason certainly can add anything to the conversation if you'd like, Jason.
Thank you. The only thing that I'd like to add is I just wanted to talk briefly, obviously the contract, Adam, you've described it, but the scope of work, similar to what Alex described, is not only some enhancements to library services, but we're taking care of a lot of the building services, whether it's on the electrical side or the mechanical side, and just replacing a lot of equipment that's original to that building as part of this design work, and really making this through the design process 25 plus years.
Yeah, I believe that a portion or a stipulation of that grant is we have to start construction by July. Is that correct?
Yeah, July 1st. So Jason and his team have been here. We have sat down and had a staff, a meeting with them, kind of gotten the old plans in place. And to them, they are beginning to design it out, map out the building. So there's been work ongoing. So we're finally at a point where we're have the contract to do the work. So Jason can maybe talk a little bit more about the timeline, but the next 30 to 60 days are critical.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was too. It's just, Jason, if you want to speak on what you're doing from your end to really get this ball rolling quite quickly so that we can continue to be eligible for our grant.
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. We're fully understanding that we have to be in active construction from a design standpoint. Really by mid-spring, we need to be done. We've kind of teed everything up as Adam described. We've been out to the site. We've measured from our standpoint. We've built all the base drawings, and we're frankly speaking ready to get started and ground running, as soon as this week. We're aware of the schedule. It's a tight schedule, but it's certainly doable with a mid-December start to mid-spring. That gives us enough time to go through the full design, develop that design, so we can get the project bid and, as described, get the construction started by no later than July 1st. Our goal is really to start construction by June 15th to have a little bit of quote-unquote wiggle room to make sure we're meeting the grant requirements.
So this firm is already hired?
They've been working on it. They more or less were selected as part of the process to do more of a facility master plan. So the library board started that process going back like 3 to 6 months ago.
With their own money?
Yeah, so this is, so just to be clear, right, this entire project is being funded through the grant and donated funds. There's not, this isn't, but the city is the lead applicant in the grant, so the contribution from the city is the grant. So this has now become our project, so, you know, as part of the process, the engineering and the architecture has to be put in place, right?
Have they been paid for previous work through the library board?
No, this is a new firm that is taking over. There was a firm that was hired previously. When we reviewed the overall proposals, PRA's proposal was more attractive and more affordable than the existing architectural firm.
For clarification, I think, PRA was hired and paid for the master planning services.
No, we never started the master planning services because we have to do a project. Because literally as the master planning services RFP was completed, we got the grant and then we had to switch from literally trying to plan out the building to see what all needed to be done to doing a project. So, yeah.
I was just going to say, maybe I can clarify a little bit. Maybe I misspoke slightly. We are teed up and ready to go, but we have not done any design work to date. We've done a little due diligence on our behalf, just investigating the building, but that was, for lack of a description, pre-design services. We're ready to begin our design services as soon as the contract is authorized by the municipality.
Okay. Were there any other firms that were interviewed through the library?
Yeah, there was a whole, there was,
Okay.
there was at least 5 or 6 responses to the RFP. And yeah, there were multiple firms in PRA, just from a design perspective and overall cost and value was selected by the building committee, by the library board to move forward.
So just to clarify on that, the library board has voted that for this.
They have selected, the building committee has selected PRA to move forward, right? They haven't, the library board doesn't need to approve this because this is now a city project. So it's kind of morphed, so I know it's a little confusing, but it went from an independent effort to now a city project. So to basically not go through an entire separate process and keep this moving, we just sort of piggybacked off of the previous library board's efforts and decisions to get to today where PRA is the designer of the project.
Can you explain, moving forward, what can we expect in the coming months? When will we see, will we be informed of?
So we'll report back when final design is done, and we'll get permission to bid it out from the council. We'll get a final plan done, and as you can see here, here's kind of a schedule on some level, and then they'll help through construction. So, I mean, they'll be along the entire time to make sure that what's designed is built.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Doug.
I'd like to ask a question. Are we likely to find someone willing to do the construction for us? It's kind of short during the summer. Do you think we'll get several good bids?
Jason, do you have an answer to that question?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer. I do feel confident about that. While we do have to have construction started by July 1st, we have a lot of time on the backside of the project to get the project completed. So while we may be working quickly at this part, I feel confident that we can put forward a schedule that allows all contractors to bid fairly and gives everybody an equal opportunity to complete the work that will be designed.
Then a follow-up question. Do we know if the library will have to close? Are we going to be partially closed? Do we have to move books? What are we, do we have any idea of that so far?
Yeah, I don't have an exact idea of that, but my initial reaction based on the due diligence we've done and the grant documentation is that this would be a project that could be phased, which would allow the library to remain open with some areas closed for a duration and then other areas closed for a different duration.
Okay, I'm not going to hold you to that. I'm on the library board, but I'm not going to hold you to that. I'm just trying to get a feel of the understanding here. Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mayor.
John?
Question, as the project cost grows, will that percentage, which is roughly 9%, will that stay the same? Will it go down a little bit as the cost goes up, or?
It's 9%.
Fixed number?
Fixed number, 9%.
9%, okay.
Which is, for an industry standard, that's very fair.
Yeah, okay.
I have another question, Mayor.
Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you, Ted. One other quick question for the design firm there. Can you tell me, do you anticipate maybe doing this in phases, depending upon what you think we might need to do at the library for the building and such? And do you anticipate that we're going to need some more money or not?
Yeah, let me answer the last question first. We put together that the grant funds plus the dollars and cash on hand will cover the scope of the work. And while I believe this will be a phased project as the construction progresses for the building, it ultimately will be a project. I don't think there will be a second phase that will need to occur, let's say in 2 years or something like that.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Is there?
To approve the professional service agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second? I have a motion by Doug, second by David. Further discussion?
He said this.
Oh, no.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
He said professional service agreement. I think we're talking about owner-architect agreement for the architectural.
Yeah, Doug, can you just clarify that your motion is for the owner-architect agreement?
I do apologize, but it's the owner-architect agreement for architectural services. That's what I meant.
And Dave, you're okay with the
Yes.
correction? All right, thank you.
That's not what he meant.
Thank you, Ellen. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the in the City of Ripon and Ripon Public Library and PRA, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. All right. So going hand in hand with that, this is from MSA to administer the grant money on behalf of the city.
Could Adam just explain this to me, please?
Yeah, so the city was awarded a flexible facilities program grant in the amount of, $1.985 million. As part of that, there is grant compliance required and administration required of the grant. So talking about labor, compliance, things that are kind of outside the general scope of staff level. So we work a lot of times with MSA or other consultants to help administer the grant funds and ensure compliance so that eligible for the funding we have in place, right? So like on Thursday, I have a 2-hour training I have to go to. They have to as well because we got this funding. So there's a whole back end. So much like CDBG or work with MSA or the project applicant or whoever we applied with to get this done. Again, while the city is the lead applicant, this is being funded through the grant funds as well as the donated funds of the library.
Thank you.
Any discussion or motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the.
Second.
Motions by Jonathan, and I got Mark's second first. Sorry, Doug.
That's okay.
Any discussion? Here, MSA, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you. All right, our next item is a year about this time. Tonight we have Craig and David here to help us go over the details of the operating plan. It's very similar to previous years with some minor changes. Step forward and go over the changes. I know you have the best grasp on line by line.
Okay, so the first change is basically going through the assessment and what kind of funds will be generated. The district had two major changes in valuation over the last 12 months. One is the parcel where the Boys and Girls Club is, that's becoming exempt. So we lost increment for that with bid revenue and assessments and that kind of stuff. But on the other side of that is we also have the Knuth Brewing Company coming online for the new facility, which was previously tax exempt. So both kind of wash out, and our assessment will be about the same next year as it was this year. I think it goes up 19.68 versus 19.66 the previous year, 19.68 million. So the district is doing well. There's just a lot of changes that are taking place. So did I get something wrong? Oh, okay. So that's the income side of the bid. In terms of our projects, the mayor's right. Things are going relatively well, and our events and our marketing, a lot of that stuff is tweaked on an annual basis and then rebudgeted and that kind of thing. Some of the projects that are a little bit different going forward, we're a little bit, we've made great progress with the visual improvements, beautification and that kind of stuff. Just a few more beautification things going forward. We had a tech visit with a streetscape consultant, and those recommendations will be coming in probably, if not late this year, early next year. So some of those things we've asked to, it's a district-wide beautification plan. So that should be ready for review and for planning. The other piece that's coming online after the first of the year, I believe the planning process is going to start for the road reconstruction, the Jackson Street, West Fond du Lac, and then East Fond du Lac. And that, we just need to, even though that project is a few years out, we do have to start the planning process and also how we're going to communicate, because there will be detours and that kind of thing. So that's some of the stuff that we're starting to look at. Big picture, long term, what do we need to do to make sure that the district stays healthy? And last but not least, we're keeping our foot on the pedal. So we've made some great progress. We have a lot of communities that are coming to Ripon to take a look at what we're doing, and we just need to stay diligent so that we're ahead of our competition, because we're being checked out by Ripon, by Neenah, numerous other communities. So it's flattering, but at the same time, we just have to continue to be diligent.
I have a question. Do you have, I was looking at the buildings in the district, the bid district. Do you have building owners that are delinquent in their bid fees?
We do. It's certainly not like it was during the BOCA.
Oh, okay.
Period. And I'd really have to, check with the office and get a better grasp. The major problem right now has been the heist and the other buildings.
yeah.
So I believe the Treasury building per se, the 114 Watson building, that's being rectified in terms of taxes. We still have an issue to deal with the 112 Watson, the old radio station, Wisconsin Power Light.
And someone bought that, right?
No, that deal fell through.
Oh, it did. Okay. I'm thinking of a building on the west side of, or the east side of the 200 block also, in which that gets close to going in REM. So I'm assuming they're not paying their bid district fees either.
What that property has been doing is paying every 3 years to keep the process from moving
From
forward.
going into in REM.
Right.
But that
So-
doesn't address your bid issue.
Yes and no. So every 3 years, they have to make whole on the tax and the bid.
Oh, okay.
And the late assessments.
Okay.
So it just gets delayed.
The county pays the assessment first. So if there's anybody, it's really hard to go delinquent, so they front that money. The assessment by the county, generally speaking.
But there's still,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's okay. But the property owner is still delinquent.
REM, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't had the problems like we did. It's,
Better.
yes.
Okay.
Was there a process that the Boys and Girls Club had to go through to get out of the bid district? Or is it just change of ownership and they're out?
It's not out of the bid district, it's still
not for
in.
profit.
However, they are an tax exempt property, so there is zero assessment.
Correct. So if that building would ever be sold,
Yeah.
it would come back into the bid.
They would pay a
Is there
big
a-
fee. It's in the bid, but they're non-taxable.
Right. It's just like the Ripon Community Church. As that wasn't a church when we started. I mean, historically, it was a church, but the Ripon Community Church didn't own that when the bid started. And when the church bought the building, then it became exempt. It's still in the bid district, just it doesn't pay the assessment.
Non-contributing or?
Yeah.
Yeah, the schoolhouse never contributed to the bid.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing with Smuckers. When Smuckers was torn down, there's been a lot of things that have affected the assessed value and the bid rate.
I'll make a motion to accept the Business Improvement District Operating Plan.
I'll second.
I have a motion by John, second by Steve. I do want to make a note that on the bid board members list on page 2, the last 2 names on there are not currently on the bid, but you'll see some nominations or appointment recommendations
Correct.
coming in coming months here.
Right. And TJ Rogers and David Knuth, they've completed their 3 terms, so they're not eligible to continue.
But thanks, Dave.
Yes. Who's here on his birthday, by the way. Right. Yeah.
So the bid will consist of 7 members, even though there are 11 on, or 9 on that list.
Correct.
There will only be 7 at any given time. So in January, you will see a couple appointment recommendations on an agenda.
And then after the first of the year, February or March, I'll come back and we'll do a total assessment of, like a progress update for the downtown.
Jolene?
Can you, because I know perhaps I have constituents that are watching, wanting me to ask, it's in my district, outside of the Main Street, you have Blackburn Street, for example, listed on here. Do you have anything specific that you can say about addressing those areas?
Most of the activity that I do is economic development. So, for instance, we helped a property on Jackson Street sell the business, sell the real estate. I'm helping another property on Blackburn Street to hopefully to sell. So it's not just, there's a lot of different aspects that, things that I work on that I'm not just concentrating on Watson Street.
I think they want to hear that.
Yes.
Joey, I would say too, there's a lot of thought in the process of, for the bid board, there's representation of Jackson, all, it's not just Watson Street property owners.
Yeah, I can see that.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Craig.
Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
There is no more discussion. All those in favor of accepting the bid operating plan, say aye.
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 Opposed? That is approved. Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Dave. All right. Our next item is to appoint, or the appointment of a finance director / assistant city administrator. Adam.
So in your packet, I have a staff report kind of going over, the city contracted with PA to recruit the vacant position. So thank you for approving that previously, because we ended up with a finalist that I'm very proud to bring in front of you, and Sean Lancer, who is incredibly qualified. He is a CPA. He's our selected finalist. He has over 20 years of experience in municipal finance, 19 of which being with the city of Glendale as the deputy administrator and finance director. So Sean has accepted the position contingent upon the council approving the appointment. And I'm just requesting that you confirm the appointment because we'd like to get Sean on board ASAP. As soon as next week he can start. So we're planning that out and certainly happy to answer any questions.
I move to confirm the appointment of Sean Lanzer as Finance Director / Assistant City Administrator with a, wow, did we get lucky.
Seconded.
Motion by Alan, seconded by Mark.
If he's listening, Sean, I can't wait to welcome you to the city. Question, speaking of welcoming, not just professionally, is there anything, I know that we, like, as far as moving to the area, do we know anything about plans to live here? I know that you probably can't, I don't think we have any ability to require that.
It's not required, but it's incentivized if he so chooses to move here. We give relocation incentive. So it's up to him. So.
Well, if you're listening, Sean, I hope you move here.
And I will say that Sean will be a great asset to our city administration. John.
With these credentials, did the salary have to go up?
The salary is within the range of the appropriate pay scale. So the starting salary is $100,000 to get a person of this experience. That is less than what he was making in his previous role, but that's what we settled on, and the posted range was 95,000 plus. So,
okay.
And the approved range for the position is approximately 85 to 105. So that's the full range for the position.
Can I ask what the previous?
95.
The previous was 95. Okay.
I would like to say, we've had discussions tonight on financing and a wheel tax and all of the deferred maintenance that we've had for years. This guy is going to be able to help us look into the future and help us with financing and take some of the burden off of Adam. We've not had that. We've had accountants. We've not had CPAs. We have not had people who understand GASB or government accounting. That's one of the reasons that we are in the position that we are, that the financing was not done here correctly for a minimum of 10 years. That's why we are in the hole we are in. And this is the opportunity for a new day.
And I will say that Sean has done his homework on the city. He has gone back and watched previous council meetings for months of meetings.
He still said yes.
And he still said yes.
That was a good one.
Yeah, it's true.
So he is aware of what he's coming into, and he is confident that he can help us move forward.
He is data-driven, and I can assure you, he has watched all of us on camera, and he's kind of got our number, so.
Well, certainly watching tonight.
Yeah.
So hello, Sean.
Just a question, like, why does he want it? You said it's less than he's currently making.
He ended his tenure in Glendale in 2023 after there was a transition in administration.
Oh.
So I think he's taken a lot of time off and reflected. And frankly, when we were going through this, PA reached out to him and garnered interest. And it just is essentially from I think from a job description from the beginning, it was line for line what he has done for the last 20 years. So it really just piqued his interest.
I would just like to point out to everyone in the community and to our members that I think it really speaks to the entire city's quality and you know, we're a place that someone with 19 years of city administration, you know, we are a place where people would want to move and have a career, and highly qualified people want to come and help us keep moving forward and continue on the track that we're on. And, you know, they see the challenges that we have and they see what we're doing and they say, you know what, I can bring my tools, I can bring my skills, and I can continue and help with the city. And I would just like to point that out specifically to everyone, that not only do the things that we discuss here impact the people that live here today, they impact the people that will live here tomorrow and next year, 5 years and 10 years. And I think that really speaks to the quality of work that everyone is doing in the city, the administration, all of our departments, and then all of our community members, from the businesses downtown to just all of our homeowners and all of our residents that live here. Is I think it speaks quite highly that someone is willing to, you know, make a big change, and maybe they'll move into the city, maybe they won't, but they're choosing to come and spend their, you know, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, you know, 2,080 hours a year to come and work here and use their skills to help us. And I think it's just important to remember that as well.
They're even willing to relocate from 6 hours away or more.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of the appointment of Sean Lancer to Finance Director, Assistant City Administrator, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, our last agenda item tonight then is City Hall flooring project proposals. This is, got 3 bids in front of you, and Alan, if you could give us your summary and recommendations.
Okay, we actually started looking at carpeting about a year ago. We intended to try to do recarpet or refloor the police department. And when we dove into it, we realized that we did not have the budgeted funds and decided to defer it to the 2025 budget year. During the budget cycle, we identified other areas of City Hall that merited consideration. So that's where we budgeted $45,000 for the work that we're proposing. We received 3 quotes from the same vendors that we had contacted a year ago. Those being Surface and Surroundings from just west of Ripon here, Quest Interiors out of the Oshkosh/Fond du Lac area, and then Tuig Flooring out of Fond du Lac. As far as the samples that they provided to us for the quotes, we would be happy with their performance with any that were proposed. In the end, Surface and Surroundings provided the best combination of quality and price, so
that is staff's recommendation, is that we award this work to Surface and Surroundings for the price of $41,899.
John? I'll make a motion to accept the bid from Surface and Surroundings for the City Hall flooring project.
No second.
I have a motion by John, second by David. Any discussion? John?
I like the idea that they had the low bid. I like it that they're local. I know the owner, he owns numerous homes in Ripon, so he's got, money at stake here, so he's gonna do a good job, and never heard anything bad about their company.
I'm just wondering if anybody, has any plans to repurpose this wonderful carpet.
We're not doing this.
This room was not included in the bid.
Actually, it's over, yeah.
The joke is this is coming back in stock.
We waited long enough, we're back in.
I believe the owner of Surface and Surrounding installed it originally.
I think this carpet may have come back in this 2 or 3 times already.
That's all, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Okay. I know this was a joke, but,
It was just a joke.
but what is it actually under, this area?
What is the affected area?
Yeah, what is it called?
The affected area.
The area under consideration. It's over there, it's affected.
Yeah, but where is, which, so it is under here.
Right, so. This is the police department area.
No, I see that, but isn't it, where would it say, shouldn't it say city, we're doing this.
No, we are not doing this right.
Because we would have to do more in here. It would take us out of budget.
Yes, this room will be a larger project.
Okay, the way you said it, I thought you were joking that of course it's gonna be.
No, we're
taken
not
out, but I was
doing-
like, I don't see it.
No,
I hear
we'd
it.
have, there's more in here that would have to be done.
I understand. Thank you.
Nothing wrong with this carpet.
Any further discussion on this one? Hearing none, all those in favor of awarding Surface and Surrounding with their proposal for the City Hall flooring projects, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Thank you very much. All right, project updates and staff reports. PD, anything? Public Works.
Just, the new building is well underway. Footings and foundations, I would say, are more than 3/4 done. We have selected the final color for the precast last week. With a stroke of luck, there was an opening in the manufacturer's schedule, so I think they said they're going to start producing the precast this week. So there's an opportunity to get ahead of schedule. Leaf collection wrapped up last week. We will be taking a deep dive into one of the machines that we're continuing to have problems with, so see whether or not we can get that running for next season, or if we have to look at a different plan there. Other than that, just hoping for a continuation of no snow.
Any project updates for the library? 5 days into your job?
Day 5, it's all new to me. But yeah, kind of the renovation project obviously is the big tickets. Gearing up for the next fiscal year, I've been working with the board to kind of get everything in line with that. First board meeting is coming up as well. And, getting all my ducks in a row and chasing down a few that have escaped and get it all rolling. So very excited.
Very good. Naomi?
Can I, wait. Chief, we just had our largest event of the year from what I know. I heard all good things. Can you confirm? Thank you to your staff for working. I saw them out and about downtown. Yeah.
Wait, who are you talking?
Is there anything, Chief, that you want to say?
No, we have to have a debrief with the chamber, and we'll work on that with them about pluses and minuses and improvements that we can do for next year, as always. So, but no real incidents of any magnitude, shall we say.
And Alex was in the parade.
I was. You know, I've had people call me the librarian, the executive director, the director. I've been called chief one time too, so I'm very this library staff did all that as well. And I was a tree.
It'll be part of the debriefing.
I do have a question for the chief. Did we incur costs for Kamala Harris coming here, and did we get reimbursement?
We certainly incurred costs and we did not get reimbursement.
We have submitted.
Are we still waiting?
We have
for-
submitted that through the city administrator, but don't hold your breath.
Okay.
That we submitted for the.
I'm not aware of any agency being reimbursed
Okay.
at this point.
That helped out?
No, throughout the state.
Throughout the state? Or,
Through the
okay.
election cycle. I'm not aware of any agency that's been reimbursed.
And you're talking for any campaign, any.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great to be a battleground.
Naomi, anything for you?
Sean's coming. I'm really excited.
Adam?
Just a couple things. So we did apply for the 2025 Section 5311 grant for the shared ride taxi service. So we submitted that with no changes to the operational discussions that we've done in the past for the taxi service, but we'll continue to work with Brown Cab and share things with the new year. East Town Development, so by the hospital area there, we had a pre-construction meeting and that project has kicked off. And there'll be an article in an upcoming Business Insider or Business Magazine about the city of Ripon and housing development. Tax bills went out last week, so those should be delivered shortly. So we'll be here to collect taxes probably start tomorrow-ish, but.
We've already started.
Okay, we've already started. And then thank you everybody who was able to attend the Alliance Laundry Tour yesterday. I hope it went very well.
All right, thank you. I would just like to thank everyone who participated in Dickens of a Christmas last week. Particularly, I want to thank Chamber of Commerce and Mandy over there. Ashton with Parks and Recs for putting together the 5K run in the morning. Public Works for your setup and cleanup of the event. All the local businesses that took part in the event. Local groups and organizations, and everyone who attended. It was a very well-attended event, and I'm happy to see it come every year, and happy to see it come the next. That's all I have for tonight. Any comments or future agenda items for council? Jolene?
Adam, do you think there's anything the city can do? Last meeting, when we met with Brown Cab, they did not sound hopeful about headway they can make regarding being able to take credit card payments. Is there anything that we can have as a future agenda item discuss to help make headway as a city to encourage our taxi to be able to use a credit card service? I guess it's just something I'd like to look into.
It's something we can continue to talk about. We can certainly advocate on behalf, and that's something we can do with Brown Cab. But again, it's a very technical federal program with certain stipulations that have to be met. And unfortunately, some of those things do not move with the times. So maybe there's a way. I think it certainly can help. So it's something we'll continue to talk about.
Thanks.
Steve?
I have a question.
Just a minute, Doug.
After listening to the people tonight, is the building inspector thing a done deal? Or can we re-up that and reconsider?
The contract has been signed with MSA. It was voted on at the last meeting.
I know that, but sounds like you're gonna pay.
Anyone else? Oh yeah, Doug, go ahead.
I just want to make sure we get that fee schedule with MSA and the building inspector contract published as soon as possible.
Will do.
As my understanding is, it's supposed to be comparable.
didn't understand what he said.
He wants the MSM.
I've said, I'm sorry, I thought that the building inspector fees were going to be similar in many areas to what was previously done. Just based on the amount of money that it's going to cost.
Yes, Adam said he will publish that right away.
Get it taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'm seeking a motion to adjourn closed session under Wisconsin State Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This would be for the acquisition of an in-rem parcel from Fond du Lac County, as well as reviewing the closed session minutes from November 25th, 2024's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion from Mark, second by Ellen. All those in favor of adjourning to closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned to closed session at 9:08.